Greetings, brothers and sisters. Sorry. It's April 27th, the day after my son's birthday, which I'll never forget the morning of. He was born in the water sack thing. I'd never seen that before. It was like the whole thing came out without breaking, and it was like he was swimming in there. And the doctor cut the little sack open. It was wild. And we greet you in the name of lovely Mother Maria. And we send our thoughts and our meditative prayers to our true self. Through our true self, we send them to Iran, who is facing an existential, life or death situation that people locked in prison for things they didn't even do face every day. We're just going to keep saying it, and we'll think positive. That's your choice. If you can, go for it. I can only think as I am. As it is, so be it. Let it be. And Maria, who's here with us, and our brother Lou. I want to make it clear, the reason I'm reading this book is on September 25th, 2012, Maria Orsic said to me, I only knew her. This is very important. I'm sick of saying it. And I just sick of trying to explain to people I didn't know who Maria Orsic. Well, she don't even exist. Those pictures are fake. Well, that doesn't matter to me, because what changed my life was meeting the Missouri River Goddess. Well, that's crazy. I know, just like God killed his son because he's so pissed off that somebody fucked or somebody masturbated, right? Never really focusing on the people who have murdered millions of people, but it's that you fell short of perfection thing, which is, people, please free yourself of this stupid ass bullshit. Stop talking like them, stop looking like them, stop dressing like them, stop acting like them. Stop using their fucking words. We don't need their words. They can have their stupid fucking code words. Faith and grace, salvation, born again. Every bit of the context is so dumb and so backwards and just makes no sense. So, on that day, Maria, the Missouri River Goddess, and I see my mind is trained not to say her magic name. This is a very important, like anyone out there who's like, I communicate with Maria. If she has told you her magic name, then contact me, and that is magic. That's, how do we define magic? As nature gone wild, nature gone supernatural. It's not outside of nature. It's just some sort of tweaking done by the astral self, true self combination, maybe. But anyway, as I've said in many videos, she was smoking a cigarette, and she said to me, I lived on Earth during World War II, and I almost passed out on the astral plane. I don't know. I mean, people like, "So why?" I had seen her, I think, every week for, 13 months, and, besides one, I think I missed 1 or 2 weeks that first year, and, I was just getting very comfortable with, like, "Okay, people think I'm crazy, but this lady," me and Mindy was and my wife at the time, but me and, Mindy were the only ones who were like, "This lady is the smartest fucking lady. She really is a goddess." And I would text Mindy every day, her magic name, and Mindy to this day will say, "I remember, when we just called her magic name," right? Well, the 2 main things she said, smoking her cigarette with her hand on her hip, and she, like, turned away from me, so her back was to me, and she's left-handed, so she's holding it in her left hand, and she said to me, "I lived on Earth. I have a teacher." And I was like, "I never even thought of that you have a teacher." I said to her, "I thought you were just born this fucking smart." Like, she's just like a different vibrational person, you know? For me, at the time, I had been a Christian in Rasta for 41 and a half years. Uh, and in that year, she had been showing me, like, this is what I do, man. I construct these dreams in my imagination and I give them to my children, my students back on Venus when they're in the Matrix so that they'll know something supernatural has happened because like the most mind blowing thing. Like I said, the very first sight memory I ever had, I didn't meet her on the astral plane, like face to face. My very first memory of her was from the magic marriage to my wife, Joey. And she was walking right next to me. And I just was looking, and me and her were telepathically communicating. But in my mind, as the observer in 2011, I was like, oh my God, who's this lady? I recognize this lady and see her telepathic voice in English. I was like, sort of racking. I was like, her voice is. I mean, this was the most mind blowing, revolutionary night, you know, this first ritual that she told me to do. And literally, like in real time, in half hour after that first memory, I was just standing on the astral plane with her, and she was standing on my to my right, like by my side, not facing me. And I moved to try to look at her, and she went, "No, I don't want you to look at my face." And she was using her hair to like block her face, and she started telling me like, "This is my work. I create dreams. I'm an artist. I'm a dancer, but my part of my art that actually comes from the art of dance and trying to write dances comes the teaching tool of creating a dream and giving it to the student. And after the dream comes true, to try to trigger the student to remember the source of the dream and what is really going on." See, it's one thing to say, like, I know I'm in the matrix and I know I woke up, but it's a whole other thing to have someone who's way smarter than you say, "Hey, listen, I did this as a plan, and you thought you were awake. You haven't woke up yet, and now that we're face to face in real time, now you've woken up." And I seen myself, like, probably 500 times say, like, "People need to wake up. People need to and I'm talking about as a patriot to the American Constitution. Um, you know, it's not that I had any bad intentions, but all of a sudden I realized right there, damn, dude, I'm 42 years old and my ass just woke up. I just woke up. I just woke up to someone else, not God, not the Holy Spirit, not even the gods, as far as official gods go. Someone, this little lady, has been intervening in my life the whole time. And this is before I ever remembered the UFO in my backyard. This would be the next week after she said to me, I lived on Earth. And when my next ritual started off with me waking up, me being the observer of myself, laying in bed with the light on, sleeping. I was out of sleep, and me waking up, and I could see myself like talking in my mind to someone, and then I started talking out loud, because I was half awake. I was like, "Mom, mom." And Maria's who's here now was like, I said, "Yes, yes." And it was like on like a 3-second delay that I was the observer of this in 1976. It was like 1, 2, 3, and I went, "Oh my God, it wasn't a dream." And she said, "Joe, I've been saying I'm your real mother." It's from the ritual since the beginning of the ritual. You know, when she was that first night, when she was behind her hair, she said, "I'm your real mother. I'm the person who really loves you. And I swear to you," this is exactly quote what she said to me. "And I swear to you, my son, with all of my heart, I believe that only eternal true love is real. Everything else is an illusion." And she was like, "I eternally, truly love you." Behind her hair. And so 13 months later, when I was first just seeing myself, this is a real memory. This actually really, I absolutely swear to the gods happened. And I see myself wake up and see this, like, this bush in front of my window of my room. It only like pressed up against my window if there was a really strong wind storm, you know? And see, when I first woke up, I was like, I guess I was dreaming that my mother was waking me up. And then I heard it again in my head, like, "Joe, Joe." And I was like, "Mom," out loud. And that's when I realized, like, holy shit, this totally makes sense. Everything. And it's like I instantly remembered, what I thought was a dream. When I convinced myself as a 7-year-old kid, because I understood the world is fucking dangerous. I'm just going to have to convince myself that it was a dream so I don't, keep telling people, even on accident, because, there was lots of UFO talk all the time. It was like in the movies. This was before ET, you know? And, a lot of times as a 10, 11, 12-year-old, I wanted to say to people, like, I had a dream that there was a UFO in my backyard and they weren't mean. It was a nice lady who said she was my mother. But I just learned just not to even say anything. I wanted to sometimes. I started remembering all this. So when she said to me, I lived on Earth during World War II, this was before, this was the week before her showing, she didn't say anything at first. I was just remembering the next week. Started out with me just remembering, like, oh my God, there really was a UFO in my backyard, and holy fuck, it was you. It was you, right? But the week before was her introduction to, like, I'm the Missouri River Goddess, but the reason I'm the Missouri River Goddess is because I lived on Earth during World War II. And she turned around and right to me, and like I said, like through that 13 months, she didn't look straight in my eyes a lot. She did, and sometimes she'd have her hair in her face, or like just kind of using her hair to cover half of her face. But it was like, she was smart about everything. Like when she would like look straight at me, I knew like this is fucking important, And she was like, Joe, and like look straight at me, like the reason I'm the Missouri River Goddess. Like you're so polite. You never really question me on like why are you the Missouri River Goddess? Why not, someone else? And she was like, here's why. She's like, you don't know this. It's all been deleted from the Matrix. But I am the girl. She said I was 22 and I was a virgin. She said, I would still call myself a girl. She's like, I'm the girl who saved the world, the whole world. And I gasped like a movie. It was so powerful. It like moved me on the astral plane out of my astral body. Does that make sense? Because you forget that you have a body on Earth in the Matrix. For real, her words were so powerful, like moved me away. And she was laughing actually, and she was going to wait as a Scorpio patience until I responded. And I had to get my wits about me, and I was like, how? I go, hold it. I'm putting it together. That's why we're in the Matrix. But how? Okay. You're saying the reason we're in the Matrix is what? That's why you're a goddess, and that's how did this happen? And she was like, I invented the UFO. And I went, oh, I did. Like a movie, like a woman in a movie, I swear. But it was authentic. And that's when she said to me, I have a teacher. I have a God. And that's when she turned away from me with her cigarette and like kind of threw her hair back, so it was out of her face and just on her back. And she walked like with her back with her cigarette out like this. And she was like, I have a God. My God is Adolf Hitler. And I just went, well, first she said, I lived on Earth. I even lived in Germany during World War II, during the war. She said, I'm from Austria. But I even lived in Berlin and in Germany at the very end of the war. And I was like, and she's like, and my God, my teacher, like, I'm your teacher. My teacher is Adolf Hitler. And I was like, because I was like, oh my God, all the things I've said, bad. Like, oh man, like, fuck. Because there's a whole, and you wonder how many there, how and why there's so many books supporting the Bible, and how could so many, look at all the conspiracy shit of like Hitler was a Rothschild, Hitler, da 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 da. Hitler was using the symbols to mind control people to kill Jews, while the bankers murder and slaughter people. How does that make? None of this makes sense. If someone was gonna stop these bankers from slaughtering innocent people, they're obviously dumb ass motherfucker, the good guy. But they went through a big, deep thing to convolute and be like, oh no, there's three choices: good, evil, and neutral. Just be neutral and be like, they're bad. And just be like, it's weird. Yeah, it's weird. They went somewhere else and did the same thing that they accuse others of doing to them. To other innocent people, they did the exact same thing right away. Certainly, like 2 years. 2 years after the smoke of the ovens, we did it to the innocent people of somebody else, but don't notice that, okay? And very importantly, she said to me, and my author is Miguel Serrano, a name I had heard somewhere, but never looked into. I just had heard his name somewhere. I heard someone talk about him sometime, and whatever they said, um, made me take note of his name and like, I got to look into that, you know, but I never did. It was just maybe a week or two before this happened. And, I was absolutely fucking stunned. I was like, that I go to her. That's why you've been politely telling me to stop listening to certain people. And she was like, right. She said, you don't understand the mind control you're under. You know what I mean? Because she had to like lightly break me into like, listen, Joe, Manly Pial, he cannot be spiritual or good because he supports the lies, and he knows that they're lies that ended the whole world, ended 20 million innocent lives, not to mention another 20 million soldiers' lives. It's just, and I had to slowly be purged of the mind control that they were monsters. They were monsters. But don't notice that as soon as we got free from the monster, we went down here and we were monsters, and we admit it. But we're chosen, and God wants us to do this. He's commanded us to do this. We have no choice. And on that, we'll pick up our reading. As I knock shit over, I seen a podcaster girl. She said at the end of her thing, she was like, I'll see you, tomorrow or in the next video. And hopefully the audio's good, because sometimes I remember to plug the microphone in and sometimes I don't. I was like, no, I feel you. Some what I thought was, I don't try to think about it a lot, but what I thought was like extra special talk. I was like, at the very end of it, motherfucker, I forgot to plug in the microphone. Sorry, I don't have time really for editing. like Maria said, we're just raw and unedited because we're raw backwards, right? And so when I asked her, what, exactly what do you mean that Miguel Serrano is your author? She said, he wrote The Myth of Our Heart, The Myth of Eternal True Love. It's called, oh, actually, this was after I bought the book. So she was like, you're reading it right now. It's called Nos. And, and she was like, I'm not kidding. You're in the Matrix, and Miguel Serrano was in the Matrix when he was writing this book. And that's why I love it so much, Joe. You're not going to ever believe this, but once your mother went through quite a bout of depression, anxiety, and everything else, and that book is what healed me. That book is what turned me around and made me again believe in eternal true love and choose to know that that is what's real, that we are what's real. Nos means we, not gnosis. Nos, N-O-S. N-O-S in Latin means we, we, two people who have become we. I feel. And I read this, and I've been reading this. I'm going to keep reading it maybe every day for the rest of my life. Remember, she said I invented the UFO. And so she told me that that was her author, and that she was like transmitting, just like she is to me, that she was like projecting herself into the Matrix and talking and meeting with Miguel Serrano and telling him he's got to write this book, and that this is what's got to be in the book, and this is where you need to go, and this is where you need to look, right? I'm going, no way. Because I've known her for 13 months, and I'm going, no fucking way. I said to her, who knows this? And she goes, it's written in his books. I go, no way. No way. She goes, yeah, he says in the books that I met this goddess in the forest where I lived. And she explained to me before I ever had the book exactly where she lived, 8 miles from the Externsteine, and how they would go there. They would ride horses there to do mushroom rituals in the Externsteine rock formations, right? And all this really happened. And for real, it angers me. Like, don't even listen to me if you don't believe. If you think I would make this up, that would be evil. I mean, for real. I didn't know. She said it's written in the books, but I had no idea that I would come up and read this. Now the old premonition was confirmed. In a forest of Germany, I had found an ashram of the Norns, the Nordic mother goddesses, and they ordered me to return to Chile. Moreover, a Norn, a goddess, would be sent with me because time accelerating was already fulfilled, the Matrix. And we would have to enter into the refuge of the Fuhrer and the White Gods to be transported in their discs of light, arriving to form part of the wilds here that would unleash the ultimate combat before the sinking of New Atlantis. And she commanded me to write this book. I literally threw the book down and went, that's so, no one would believe. That's the first thing I thought is, no one will ever believe me. No one will ever believe me that this beautiful, and I thought, I really swear to the gods I really did thought, who fucking cares? She's so beautiful. That's all that matters. All that matters is me being with you. That's all that matters. That's all that matters to me is to be with Maria. And I had no idea she could ever, have the time to be with me every night, you know. But that's what we've been doing for over a year. We've been working hard. And so we'll pick up our reading, Ultimate Avatar. Right. And let me reset since I don't pay the subscription fee. Right? So every half hour I
Can't
have
you
to
see
reset.
by the way I dress?
Check. Okay, so tonight's reading from Miguel Serrano's Ultimate Avatar. And I am one blind ass motherfucker. And I have to take my contacts out to read. And I have to hold the book at exactly a certain range away. And I said all that for, I guess, a whole half hour to tell you that she told me in those months before I bought this book, she told me, go on the internet, buy the very first book that pops up, no matter what. Just do it. It was Nos, which is, the classic myth of true love, true art. It had nothing to do with these teachings like this. I mean, it's his life about it, but right, it was a full year. So it was 2013 when I got this book, and like I said, when I read that, she commanded me to write this book. I met her in the forest of Germany. I was like, that's exactly what she told me. Exactly what she told me was, I live by the Externsteine at Miguel Serrano's Testwood. Would you come there? If you come there, then I'll tell you who I am. And I'll help you remember that I already saved you in the Matrix. You have to understand, Maria Orsic demanded, just because of the earlier books, demanded, and because of Eternal Return and her own memory, that Miguel Serrano be saved from this nuclear holocaust in real time. And in the Matrix, if it ended before, because he's one of the gods, he comes every time. He comes back every time to the Matrix, his real self. And it's a little bit different each time, right? The books are even a little bit different each time. That's why this simulation is the shit, as people would say. It is beyond anything else, I'm told. All right. And she, on the summit of the Externsteine, there's a round opening perfectly cut into the rock, through which each day the first rays of the sun enter, transmuting its circumference into the other sun. There the Norns of the Externsteine awaited the resurrection of the original dawn. Aryan priests, and Maria wants you to know, Siggy and her were joined by their friend Dawn at this time, who lived with them for many years in Germany, who was a German girl and a goddess in her own right. She is in a little east of us, as a area of her return. Even it's crazy, but Maria actually had me go to another river and contact another river goddess to prove to me, that she knew all the river goddesses and she was in with them all. And they knew her, and that this was real and this would work, on a practical level. There, the Norns of the Externstein awaited the resurrection of the original dawn. Aryan priests and priestesses are the wise artists of a rite, a cult. Let me read that again. Aryan priests and priestesses are the wise artists of a rite, a cult. There is no difference between warrior and priest. Each warrior, each head of a household with his wife, fulfill the sacred solemn ritual, dividing the representations according to sex and corresponding initiations. They took deep parts in the mysteries that touched their lives, fighting against the destiny of their yuga, their time, their generation, by means of Aryan cult and rite, thus to drive its possible mutation. And of course, he's using the word cult as a people, as a serious religious bound people, not in a good way, not a bad way. I feel like I have to say that sometimes. The warrior priest, with weapons in hand, addressed the gods and heroes, not as strange external beings, but as to a power existing in and of itself, within himself, even Hyperborean ancestors who, on being realized, exerted power over external nature as such. He is sacred. He is sacred to the degree it is permitted for him to connect with the sleeping God that is within him by means of the ritual that is now called pagan by Christianized Judaism. Thus, the Brahmin says, Namaste, joining together all the fingers of his two hands, ether, air, fire, earth, water, with the Aryan salute, which means I salute the God who is within you. Prayer directed to the extra cosmic self with a capital S, is made while standing with arms raised towards the morning star. Morning star, I sound pretty Missouri there in the morning. Morning star towards the black sun. It is the man rune, the Cathar cross. The Aryan understands, knows in this world of the loss of Hyperborea, the loss of Hyperborea, the divinity that prevails inside and outside of him. He knows the loss of it is an unleashed terrible power, not always beneficial, depending on his own strength, right? Yeah, literally knows if this is dangerous. Yeah. It's basically saying like you could lose your temper. This is part of nature, losing your temper. Depending on his own strength and the purity of his blood, he can contact this other found beyond the stars, who has been left waiting as on the edge of a fountain. The ancient essence of Hyperborea, ER. Okay, and Maria wants me to clearly say to you, we are clearly saying to you that every last one of our people, this other found beyond the stars, is found on Venus, is your body laying on a bed in this matrix, who was left waiting on like the edge of a beautiful fountain for your return. And that's why We are saying, I don't know if you've come to the realization your life has been repeating, and my only prayer since that revelation was to my true self, teach me the next thing I need to know to get out of here. I don't want to do this again. Teach me how to fucking wake up on Venus. I don't want to do this again. Back to the text. Only a hard character, the Aryan, firm as the rocks of Externsteine, will be able to change the destiny of the darkest age. And Maria did. Those who represent the shadow, Charlemagne, the murderers, and the monk of Boniface, have everything to win. Yet, the traditions long preserved themselves among the skalds, the singers, the troubadour poets who traveled, who went on tour among the courts of Europe, singing the ancient sagas, histories, and legends of those vanished giants who built the Externstein. The Eddas speak of the twilight of the gods and how Wotan has risen with the runes. The Minisanger kept the nostalgia of Amor, lost in the ice of extreme polar opposites, together with the midnight sun that was once a high noon. It is incredible that researchers like Professor Young and others who could not overlook these things have also been influenced by the Judeo Christian tradition, by the piety of their families and communities, to the extent of having to travel to Black Africa and the America of the Indian peoples to study lunar and solar cults. Wow. When everything was there at hand in their own ethnographic territories, but they also went to these places in the ranks of the great conspiracy against their Nordic ancestors to make them appear like savages and barbarians. That is why they turned against Hitler at the end, committing themselves to the white treason. Undoubtedly, most of the most sacred sites in Germany is the Teutoburg Forest, Teutoburgerwald, where the Saxons fought to the death in the defense of their sanctuaries, commanded by Hermann the Cherusker, Hermann of the Cherusci in English. This was the sacred region of Asgard. We attach a plan of the area indicating the place where they think this magical city of Asir could have been located following the change of the poles and the displacement of the Earth's magnetism. The Asir signifies the column of the sky that passes across the sky, astrology. This column is also Irminsul, Yggdrasil, the Milky Way, Road of Erin. It's saying, man, astrology is the one true religion that cannot be fucked with ever, unlike your Bible. It is the ancient Easter tree, Irminsul, Yggdrasil, the Milky Way. It is the ancient Easter tree of Tutanchen, or the Teutons. Cherusker comes from Cheru, which at the same time means heart. Originally, Germany was Rosenland, the land of the rose. Rosengarten, rose garden, that is today vanished. The garden of the Hecken rose, the non existent flower, beneath which Merlin slept, and I also. The Hyperborean exodus went following the direction of the rightward swastika. North Pole, Gobi, India, and the Caucasus, where there is also an Asgard on Mount Elbrus, and then in Europe. The return would find Hitler following the opposite direction of the leftwards swastika, as we have seen. It was stalled in the Caucasus. Why? Because the circuit of the hooked cross had to be much wider, to be exact, having to pass through the other pole first and then return to the mythic Luciferian north, only from there. It is the land of Padir in Paderborn, Westphalia, where the most sacred sanctuary of the ancient magic Hyperborea is found. The Externsteine. Exactly what Maria had told me a year before I had this book. I never even knew what Externstein was until she had to literally spell it out to me in a ritual and have me write it down. I'm like, Externstein. She's like, you've never heard of that? And she's like, I'm amazed. She said, Joe, there's a picture of so-called Jesus on the cross in the rocks. It was there 50,000 years before Jesus was so-called Jesus was born. They stole it. Oh, it just makes you mad. And no wonder they had to kill everyone, right? Because all they kept saying is, go look at that rock thing. That was way before your fake ass religion. And you know what? I will say to you right now, I was such a brainwashed fucking born into a Christian that I too was sad for a couple days after realizing there was no Jesus. There was no Jesus. God don't need fucking human sacrifice blood to satisfy himself as God. It could possibly be in him. I too felt sad, like some brainwash retarded part of me that isn't really me wanted it to be true. Because we're masochistic haters of ourselves. That's what you're born into. You're born into, man. You're Irish, you're German, you're whatever, and you're less than us. No matter what you fucking say, they're like, we're British, we're rich, we're old money, or we're Jewish, we're this or that, or whatever it is you're working class, you are inwards. Get back in your fucking place. And all of a sudden I was breaking out. I was breaking out like, oh, this disgusting thing is what you hold and project on the working classes, not of all white people throughout history, no, especially in America. Just, I mean, professional wrestling Christianity. Clowns with makeup on, people, fake passing out, fake healings. I was in the middle of all of it. Fake as a $3 bill or $1,000,000 bill. How about that? But straight up, you want a word from Maria Orsic? You want to go somewhere that's sacred? You want to feel the vibe? It is in the land of Paderborn in Westphalia, where the most sacred sanctuary of ancient magic of Hyperborea is found. The Externsteine. Professor Herman Worth took the photo that we publish. According to some investigators, this was the sacred place of the most ancient cults of Mithras. El Star was the sacred bird of the goddess Hel. She's half white and half black. alchemical goddess. Those outer stones, external, are found in the land of Cherusker, of the hearts. According to Nibelung Jinlied, the hero Siegfried was fed there by a doe. This is why the Shurgat sword god of Cherusker was called Shiru. In the Teutonberger Wald, Siegfried slew the dragon and discovered the treasure of the Nibelungs, certainly located in the city of Asgard, already made invisible. Certainly this was located in the city of Asgard, already made invisible by the Asir, by the Hyperborean Siddhas. On the back of one of the columns of the Externsteine, there is the depiction of a female deer. But as talking about the Externsteine, it says, now in the heart of Germany, in Teutonberger Forest and the Externstein near the actual Paderborn. In this area, Hermann or Erman Nice fought so heroically to defend the sacred soil of the Saxons, but Asgard had already become invisible. The entrance is among the interior rocks of the Externstein. But the most extraordinary thing ever is the crucified God who appears there on the fourth rock. The photo we published shows the front of the rock with Hengatir, that god. He is Wotan, hanging on the Yggdrasil terror tree. He is Wotan, hanging on the Yggdrasil tree of terror. The wounds appear in his side. The rose shield from the land of the roses. The German tribes would never have converted to Christianity if they had, in their most intimate depths, held the conviction that it belonged to them and that their enemies had stolen it from them and falsified it. The Judaized Christians of Rome had to take all the baggage of the Mithraic mystery, so to speak, with the object of being able to penetrate among the peoples who called themselves pagans, including the very Romans themselves. There is a Hyperborean Nordic Christ, Christos, as he would be called from Atlantis. He is Wotan Lucifer, Quetzalcoatl. His Christianity has been esoterically presented, rune wise, in these pages. He is the warrior Christos of combat against the demiurge, Jehovah Yahweh, of resurrection and the runes, and the true Lord of the armies of the warrior order of Wotan and the Führer of the Third Reich. In the year 772, Charlemagne destroyed the Irminsul of the Externstein. In the year of 785, on pain of death, Christianity was made obligatory by, among, and by the Germans. And only in the 9th century did there appear the first representations of Jesus Christ hanging in reclined form from the cross. Clearly, this had been taken from the Irminsul and the Kreuzgott of the Externsteine, but he had been given that typically Judaic aspect, bloody, depressing, sadomasochistic, a rebellious slave, Sudra class, from whence came the Jewish Christianism in its origins. In Rome, the anti Nordic conspiracy was enthroned, anti Aryan from the anti race of the demon Jehovah. We can see today how the Vatican, with ever greater speed, seems to want to unmake the Kreuzgott, the crucified God, even to the very last remnants, to replace him with Marxist and with the Messiah of Zion. The sanctuary of Externstein is the most impressive vision we can give of the warrior of esoteric Hitlerism. There, above, up above, appears a hanging rock. Check this out. The most impressive part is there up above appears a hanging rock, swaying in balance, yet never falling. It is the menhir because it is allowed to move. In among these rocks is the temple of initiation, the tomb called You Are, also appears with the name of the rune of the Hyperborean origin. Nevertheless, it is not a tomb. It is a stone bed for the second death, the resurrection of the Aryan, the initiation, death. German priests, bearers of the ancient knowledge of Hyperborea, fled to Iceland when Charlemagne destroyed the Irminsul and the Boniface monk, the oaks of Donar, taking with them the Hyperborean five-petaled rose, the silver rose of Germany, from the rose garden of Siegfried, from Asgard and the king of the gnomes, Loren. This rose has never had anything to do with the rose of the Orient. It is much earlier. It is the rose that comes from the morning star. It is the Grail, the Holy Grail. And there it was, looking in the direction of Paderborn, the land of Padir, those who traveled to India, of Herman, of Armin, of Erminus, of the Externstein, and Wotan, Mithras, Christos of Atlantis, where the SS built their castle of initiation, their Himmelsberg, their castle of the sky, Vivelsberg, pointing like a lance towards the sanctuary of prehistory, towards the Externstein, towards Asgard. In the autumn of 1982, I visited the Externstein in Westphalia. I crossed the ancient sacred wood of the victorious battles of Herman, of Shirusker Erman, who is the power of man. Oh, what an impression to be able to contemplate for the first time this mass of rock and the great warrior heads sculpted on their peaks, not by human hands, but by the projection of mind over cosmic and terrestrial plasma. Up above, a warrior with a helmet and a visor guarded the entrance. Guarded. Okay, so here we go in El Ella. Hail to you. May you and I, may our true selves hook us in to our eternal return, our real outside the matrix. May our true selves help us right now. Help. Remember, this is El Ella, the great ancestor, has appeared to Miguel Serrano. I'll just pick up close to where we were. You should go down to the cellar, he said, before you visit the tower. Although, in a sense, there is neither an upstairs nor a downstairs. You can come and go from either, but whatever we do, we must first visit the original ancestor and receive his blessing. No, answered the man. I'm only interested in her. Tell me, where can I find her? Somehow I've lost her ghost. She's now undergoing a second death called the interim mori. As she dies a second time, her astral body begins to disintegrate. You wouldn't recognize her if you saw her right now. That's why she carries a mask. She doesn't want to frighten you. This is like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, he said. You go from one state of decomposition to another. Don't talk about books to me, answered the ancestor. He said, this is like the Tibetan. He said, don't talk to me about books, answered the ancestor. I've also written some. He indicated one lying on the table. It was called Natural Right. The ancestor picked it up and began to flick through its pages and read. True love never survives the act of fulfillment. Rather, it is a secret agreement that takes place on another plane. True union occurs only in dreams. He paused to explain that his book dealt with an inspired science. Love, he continued reading, has nothing to do with sexuality. It comes from before it. Love even existed before species were divided into two sexes. He's talking about the true self. There are primary organisms and hermaphroditic ones, which reproduce themselves by parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis, sorry. I can't talk for a second. But they look for another hermaphrodite to love, making a parody of partition before it actually happens. Love produces the partition of the hermaphrodite and the differentiation of the sexes. Love creates sex, not the other way around. The hermaphrodite was divided so that he would have a motivation for existence, searching through the world for a reunion or for transformation into a new androgynous being. This is a being quite different from the primeval hermaphrodite. This new being is neither a natural son nor a supernatural angel, but has some of the qualities of each. The ancestors stopped reading and spoke directly to the man. When you find your lover and join with her forever, when you really marry her, you'll know what I mean. Books can't explain it. Books can't explain it. He leafed through the last pages without reading any of them. Leaving the book open, he put it down on the table and walked out of the room. Stiffly, as though he were leaving his own body, the man got up from the chair and went over to the table. He lit a candle and looked down at the open page. Written there in an archaic handwriting was the title, Sutras, Aphor, Aphorisms. He began to read. O goddess, you are real to me. There's no difference between you and me. The wind which blows from the garden where my lover sits brings her essence to me. You should think of the soul as a castle made of diamonds or of very clear crystal, with many rooms and dwelling places, some above and some below, and others on the sides. In the center is the most important one, where the most secret dialogue takes place between the lover and the soul. This castle is planted in the living waters of life. Now we must learn how to enter it. Perhaps you think I'm talking nonsense, since I've already said that the castle is the soul, but there are great distances between states of being. There are many souls on the outskirts of the castle, some wanting to come in and others wishing to remain outside. Many don't even know such a beautiful place exists. You don't have to look back and forth if you're looking for me. Just look inside yourself. I live there now. I gave myself to him, and then I changed. Now I am beloved, and my beloved is me. They are like omens and messengers of the approaching dark night of the soul, even though they are transient, like this waiting night. But doubt is what the soul calls the dark night. This dark, Knight, this dark night of loving fire, as it becomes a purge, so the soul is set on fire. Bitter wind, stay away. Don't touch the wall where my wife is sleeping. There were other sections of the book, many with titles and subtitles. Under the last rule of things, one of the titles, the warrior must give his lover's face to death. In this way, death becomes feminized. The kiss. The kiss was a new ritual established to replace the knife cut and the sucking of the blood. It also involves the mixing of breath. But just as the white god Quetzalcoatl failed when he tried to replace the bloody sacrifices of the Aztecs by floral offerings, so the kiss never achieved what was intended of it. It became a mere sensual act. The true kiss is the first step on a road leading to the lost home and the city of eternal life. The look, ecstasy, expresses the union of virility and femininity within oneself. The look transmits this ecstasy to the heart. He turned additional pages of the book until he came to this family wine. In the fifth book of Weidenfeld, which we alone know, the creation of the spirit of wine is explained. It has never been described in another book. It is Spiritus Mercurius Universalis, or the menstruation of the grape, the ultimate dissolving of liquid. Our family believes that liquid gold cannot be created unless the spirit of wine is first obtained. The formula for this is to take equal portions of red and white wine, heat them at a steady temperature. The wine should boil until a thin layer of oil appears. This is putrefaction, or vegetal menstruation. During the time it takes for this oil to rise to the surface, those in attendance must pray. Then, when the bowl is uncovered, the participants inhale the aroma. If it is subtly penetrated, it means that the spirit of wine has appeared. The spirit must be drunk fast before it condenses. Once this is done, the vas hermeticum is closed and kept boiling until the remaining oil is transformed into metal and into the liquid gold that represents the quintessential fifth element. This material is not found in nature and has to be artificially manufactured. Two roads may be followed, one leading quickly to its destination because it does not require the distillation of the spirit of wine, nor the help of a woman, a soror mystica, in the laboratory. It has also been called the dry road. Whether its results are the same as those of the other, who can ever say? But our family has always chosen the road that makes use of wine. It is also called liquid road and requires a woman's company. She produces the spirit of wine and she gives it to us. Nevertheless, this is no companionable journey. Nevertheless, this is no companionable journey. For the rest of the voyage is terribly lonely. You will be more alone than the man on the dry road and will face many, many dangers. That is why we think this road the most noble and complete. We are not allowed to write down the name of the first of us who chose this road, but in our family, we always raise a glass to him. Then followed some illegible rhymes and others that had been crossed out with ink. It was impossible to decipher them. The man then turned to the last page, and this is what he read. I tell you, my heart was opened as though by a knife, and you entered it. Then it closed and was sealed. You will be therefore, you will therefore have no other companion until the day of resurrection. And last judgment, you will share my life and my death as well. When I die, you will remain in my heart in the gloomy depths of the grave. Once again, the ancestor appeared. He was carrying a candelabrum, candel, candelabrum, and was dressed in an elaborate robe. Come with me, he said. I want to show you our vineyard and wine cellars where we've made wine for 700 years. This has always been in our family business. They left the empty house and went out to the fields where the workers were gathering bunches of grapes into hampers and pressing them with their bare feet. They sang old songs as the new wine was made. In a tent, the members of the family had gathered to take part in a harvest festival. Old and young sat in total silence and concentration, and the ancestor arrived. They stood up. When the ancestor arrived, they stood up and they bowed one by one. They looked at the man with surprise and recognized him. Not recognizing him. Sorry. They looked at the man with surprise, the ancestor, not recognizing him. Don't worry, said the ancestor. Most of them don't know what this is all about. He turned away and said, now let's go to the wine cellars. I love it. Once again, though they were alone, the ancestor went on ahead, showing him the barrels, each with a name inscribed on it. Toward the back of the barrels became smaller. The best wine is kept for the family, he said. We also keep the spirit of wine. You've probably read how it's made in the book that I left in the room. The fifth book of Weidenfeld is our family property, and no one besides us knows that he wrote it. They were near the end of the upper level, and the ancestor paused at an unmarked barrel. This one doesn't have a name yet, but I'll put yours on it when I know what your real name is. By now, they reached the entrance to the underground vault. But before going down, the ancestor changed his clothes and picked up a sword. You must too take a sword, he said. You'll need it. The ancient wooden pillars were held together with leather straps. The floor was uneven, the air moist and heavy. From time to time, in the glow of the candle, they could see a few rusty links of broken chain. We're now going to visit the great ancestor, he said. For a long time, they walked in darkness, and the man asked his ancestor how he found his way. I don't know where we are, he answered, to tell you the truth. I simply keep walking. No one has ever been through all of these passages. Just then, they heard a moan followed by something like a roar. The man felt a sudden chill, but his ancestor calmed him by taking his arm. I felt the same thing when I first came down here, he said. Just hold on tight to your sword. Shortly after, they stopped. It appeared that they had reached the end. In front of them was a stone column. At its base, they saw the candlelight of a deformed human being tied with chains and straps. His face was marked by humiliation and suffering, but these scourges also revealed the sanctity of mankind. The face represented the features of creatures everywhere, whether animal, fish, vegetable, or mineral. Vegetable or mineral. Right. Here is the great ancestor, the great grandfather of all grandfathers. Ask him for his blessing and forgiveness. Kneel down before him and kiss his sores. Never, the man replied, but I will free him. That's why I came here. And with a simple blow of his sword, he cut the chains and straps that bound the great ancestor, the king who ruled over the slaves of Atlantis. He came into the room. He still bore marks of the tortures and chains and had a peculiar smell. I've come to thank you, he said, and I'll express my gratitude to you in the same way by cutting your chains and freeing you from the links that have held you to a dream. Here's the genealogical tree of the family. One of your great grandfathers was named Sunday. Another was named Saturday. Your name is Friday, since Friday is the day of your star. You're a new branch and you're slowly growing at the top of the tree. It will be the last because it is sterile. The man began to thank the great ancestor, but was quickly interrupted. Don't thank me, he said. This family is cursed by limitless pride, which seeks shelter in an illusion. Your ancestor in the portrait and your other great grandfathers were all incapable of loving people of flesh and blood. They all devoted themselves to something that did not exist, hoping thereby to save their pride. You're the same. You're unable to love a real woman, and so love a dead one instead. You know she doesn't exist because she's gone forever, like the rest of your ancestors. You love no one except yourself. He felt a lance enter his side. Unable to move or answer, he closed his eyes. Then, with difficulty, he moved his stone lips. Why have thou forsaken me? I loved her with all my being and strength. It's true, I loved her in a different way, but it was more than ordinary love. I've taken her through the world, giving her eyes so she might see, my senses so she might feel. If I can't love if I can't love anyone else, it's because she has made me burn and left me cold, because she and I are one. Then he began to pray to the morning star. And in a few minutes, he heard a voice. No, not yet. I am still in the grave. After a while, the ancestor spoke. This is Negrido, the dark night of the soul. The corruption of one is the purification of another. Corrupto unis genitaria est alterarium. After Negredo comes Albedo. This is Albania, the white land. The ascent to miraculous heights and a final meeting in the oasis surrounded by the ice. Perhaps she will also appear to help guide him along the difficult path until at last they reach the gate of the city, which she does not enter. When the man went over to the mirror and looked at himself, he discovered that his eyes were hers. He was looking at himself from within her. You and I are one, he exclaimed. This cry of triumph brought about an earthquake. As the mountains trembled along the southern coast, the land of the androgynous El Ella emerged from beneath the ocean. And we amor you, brothers and sisters. And that is the final words of one of the greatest books ever written. Part of a trilogy that makes up the myth of our age, right? The ultimate flower, El Ella, and Nos, the book of resurrection, the trinity of poetry that inspired all of us in our religion, the religion of Amor, love without death. Be right back with a word from your mother on April 27th. We love you. We amor you.
Underneath the moonlit sky, feel the vibe. Island breezes whisper low like a life tribe. Nana dance to the night, heart so free. With every sway and step, she's a melody. Roots in the soil, love's the only guide. Na 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 na, guide us home. River of Amor, flowing through our veins. True self-reflected in love's strong chains. Together we rise, wash away the stains. Our souls intertwine, dancing in refrain. In sunshine, we never lost, just found echoes of laughter. We grew to that sound. Colors of the sunset paint the ocean deep. With Nana's spirit, we're awake, never sleep. In your name we rise, no need to hide. The river speaks, it knows our name. Through every wave, we're called to reclaim. River of Amor, flowing through our veins. True self-reflected in love's strong chains. Together we rise, wash away the stains. Our souls intertwine, dancing in refrain. Sunflower, light up and you shine, forever bright. In the rhythm of love we ignite.